It's International Stress Awareness Day, and I'm here together with my co-host Danielle and the chair of the International Stress Management Association, Carole Spiers, who is also the founder of this fantastic day, which is now recognized worldwide, and the author of Show Stress Who's the Boss. Now, Carole Spiers, welcome to this interview, and tell me something about yourself, maybe that the audience would like to know. Just something personal, you know, how did you become interested into stress, for example? Was it something personal, or was it a little bit more professional?
I have to say it was mainly professional. I remember when I founded National Stress Awareness Day, which is now 19 years ago. Whoa, can't believe it, but it was. Is that there was a real need to actually raise the awareness of stress and to start looking at what could be preventative, both for individuals and what could actually help the organisation. And here we are, absolutely an amazing, amazing day on Stress Awareness Day, 2017, where we have a whole range of things that are going on right up and down the country and, as you say, internationally. So what brought me into the profession? Well, my background is in psychology and counselling. I had certainly seen stress at the cold face where it was really hitting people really, really badly. And so therefore there was a great need to actually work with other people, with like-minded professionals in industry. And I was introduced to the International Stress Management Association, and fast forward X amount of years, I then took over the association and became chair of it, and now have invited to become chair again of the association. So realistically, is there a need for National Stress Awareness Day? Yes, there is. And I think you've all done an amazing job in getting this Global Stress Summit together, because we can't thank you enough. So thank you so much, ISMA Belgium.
Thank you, Carole. It's really kind. So you started as a psychologist and a counselor, yes? Was that something you always wanted to do in your life?
I've always worked with people, always worked with people. And I'd studied psychology, I'd trained to be a counsellor, and so therefore would work with people all of the time. And I could see that stress was really getting in the way of them leading productive lives, healthy lives, and certainly very few people at that time had work-life balance. And you're talking about many years ago now, when realistically stress was not the high profile that it is today. And I'd say ISMA has created some of that high profile, and I'm really proud that it has actually done that, not just through me, but through its members and through all the chapters around the world. So therefore, it is so needed. We need to, as our theme for this year is speak up and speak out about stress. It can be nothing more important than to raise the profile of stress.
Indeed. Now, with all that experience that you have, do you see there is a kind of a difference? You know, I always say stress is of all ages. It's been there forever, and it's really, you know, it's essential part of human life. You know, we need stress to get out of our bed, for example, which some people don't really realize. You know, that biological stimulation. But do you see any difference that from when you started to, you know, our society now? Are there some elements that you say from yes, it has changed, or the demand of people has changed as regards as a counselor in stress management?
Yes, I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Don't forget, we look at pressure as good for us. Pressure is what you can manage. Pressure is what you can thrive on and gets you up in the morning. And stress we look at as the negative side, inability to cope, frequent headaches, inability to sleep, and those kinds of effects. So what we're saying has happened over the years is that, yes, there are greater demands on people, whether that is through home demands with people who are working, working, husband working, wife working, partners working, both, everybody's working together. So there are greater pressures on the job, greater pressures in industry, work-life balance. It seems to be, I'm not saying going out the window, but work-life balance is not actually something that people are actually enjoying these days, because there's 24-hour 7 culture where you're always on call. So whether it's via the phone, whether it's via your email, there's a huge ability. There's a huge area where people need to feel they need to feel that they're needed, together with the work is there to be done, and people are working globally as well. So therefore, because we have this 24/7 culture, and we have the phone that's in our hands nearly all of the time, we're losing the ability to actually switch off. And so therefore, if you talk to somebody about making time for yourself, they look at you and think like, excuse me, I don't have time to make time for myself. So that sort of thing. But so therefore, are there greater pressures today than there were years ago? Yes, there are. Are we managing it better or worse? Well, in some ways worse, but in some ways better, because there's a greater profile. There are huge pressures externally and internally.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Carole,
So, yes, sorry, Danielle.
no, Carole, I just, want to ask you a bit of a personal question, because you are the queen of stress in the UK and maybe even globally. You are such a leader in this field to speak up and speak out about stress. But I want to ask you a personal question, because it interests me personally, and I think it might be nice for the audience to hear. As the queen of stress in the UK, what do you do about your stress in your life? Is there something, do you speak up about it? Do you have people you speak to? What is your trick to manage your stress?
I have learned how to switch off, which means I work extremely hard. I really do, ISMA and my own business. But I have learned the art of actually switching off. When my office door is closed, it is closed. And when I go out with the kids or do something else, I actually do not think of work. So I have learnt the art of compartmentalizing, how to do that. I know it helps me to listen to music. Classical music is what I love. So therefore, mindfulness is something I really enjoy, which is enjoying the moment, just taking 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there to actually do that. So therefore, I actually do what I preach. It doesn't mean it always works. It does mean that I know what to do, but I don't have sleepless nights. I'm very blessed not to have sleepless nights. And when I go to bed at night, I switch off. It's time for me to go to bed. So unless I'm jet lagged because I've been traveling around the world somewhere, otherwise I have learnt the art of actually switching off. And it is a continual working on that process. It really is. Because I know how hard I work. I do not close my office door at 5 o'clock. I have to say I don't do that. I could not run ISMA and head up ISMA as I do and my own business if I did that. So I take on my work as a part of my life. I love what I do. Is my work-life balance as good as other people's? Well, I couldn't answer that, probably not. But nevertheless, because I love what I do, and it's not just loving what I do, I think it's such an important mission. Such an important mission. And if I can make a difference to one person with something that I've said, or something, a technique that I've put forward, a tool that I've put forward, and it makes a difference to their life, that in itself is so important. That does it for it. It's making that difference to individual people who then will become a group of people, and having the honor and privilege of bringing groups together, of bringing people like yourself, you and Tom together, and actually creating this vision so that we can do this worldwide. It is needed, and I'm just one cog in the wheel to help people bring all this process together.
And that is so important. It's so important to indeed all, bring people together. Yes, it's also how ISMA, from personally, I got to know about it last year, and thanks to the conference and your interaction, you put me in contact with Danielle, and look what we are now. And it is very important that we are creating these kind of groups and work together to raise that awareness, to speak up and speak out about stress. Couldn't be a more perfect title for a theme, because that is what is needed, and that is what we as individuals, who are also at the same time the society, need to do more and more. Because I am very much aware of the fast changing world, technological world, and I'm seeing and I'm predicting also some extra stressors that will fall upon us. new stressors that we haven't really thought about yet. But, together, we will be able to spread that message more and further. Now, you've written a book. So in your book, Show Stress Who's the Boss. Yes. Could you say something about that? Just to, how to do that, how to show stress the boss. What's your message there?
What's my take on that? Okay, right. This is my fourth book, in fact. My first book was called Managing Stress in the Workplace, and it was published by Tolles, and it was very much an academic book. And it took me over a year to write it, and it didn't really achieve the great profile and make the difference that I wanted it to make. It was there. It's still in the library. It's still in the library. It's still on the bookshelves. But never. Then I had a few other books in between. This last book, which is called Show Stress Who's Boss, was a book that I wanted to actually provide to management to provide a book that was easy to read. I wanted a book. I know that people really have very little time for reading. People read in bite-sized chunks. People have a very low attention span these days. They concentrate for about 5 seconds at a time, and then they've gone straight away. So I wanted to write a book that was actually a book that was going to be an easy to read, easy access book, which is exactly what Show Stress Who's Boss is. Easy access, easy to read, bite-sized chunks, lots of illustrations, lots of graphs, lots of charts, well illustrated together with the content. I wanted it to be a book that managers in the main could dip in and out of. However, I say managers, but there's a very large section on how to look after yourself as well. Because whether you're a manager or not a manager, you still need to look after yourself. But it's mainly geared for people who are working in industry, who are needing to look after themselves, manage their people, because managing people is really quite a challenge to everybody. A lot of managers are promoted into their jobs, but don't necessarily know how to manage people, and yet they've actually got people to manage. So I've introduced a large section of the book on communications, and I really value the importance in terms of managing stress. I value the importance of communications, because managers, I really think, have a very tough job to do. As I said, they're promoted into role and don't necessarily have the training to manage people. But yes, that's what they actually are expected to do. That goes with the job. And people say to me, well, I can manage the job, Carole, but I can't manage people. But of course, people is what it's all about. So communications, there could be nothing more important than actually knowing how to communicate effectively with your team members. So if you're a manager and you're looking out for signs and symptoms of stress, you may be aware of it. You may see people who are not concentrating. You may see people, there may be increased accidents, people working in isolation, people not just thriving and productive with their work. But then they don't quite know how to go on to the next stage, which is to actually talk to that individual. So they don't know necessarily how to communicate with that individual to say hello and how are you, wait long enough for a response after the how are you, and then get to the point where they know how to actually communicate with that person regarding the signs and symptoms of stress they may be seeing at work. And also, let us not forget, it's not just work stress that they're going to be, that individual's going through. It could be home stress as well. So is it the manager's role to necessarily be concerned about home stress? Well, the answer is that individual comes to work. If home stress is affecting that particular individual, then they need to be aware of what that person's going through and possibly to resource somebody else to help that person if they need that help. It's all about helping that individual to perform, helping the individual to produce the work. Bottom line benefits to the organization. Why should they really be interested? Well, they should be interested in people, but bottom line benefits are increased performance, increased productivity, increased profitability, and lower absenteeism. That's bottom line.
Yes.
Carole, Tom, I just want to add something because Carole addressed something very important here. And in the team, speak up and speak out about stress. I love the theme. But on the other side, in communication, if somebody speaks up and speaks out about stress, there's supposed to be somebody listening. You know, and I think it's the first time actually that I really it is actually coming in as an insight. We say the team is speak up and speak out about stress, But I hear you say communication is so important, and the manager or whoever on the working floor and at home, there's also somebody that needs to listen. Empathy is one of these skills that you hardly find in our society. People are talking, but very few people are listening. And do you have something to say about that?
I agree totally with that. And we brought about this theme of speak up and speak out about stress because it was so important to do that. And it's so important to do that. And so important because we're actually going to maintain that next year as well, in terms of a part of ISMA needs to be always talking about stress and mental health. We haven't mentioned mental health yet, but we'll come on to that in a minute. But coming back to the point that you said, Danielle, there is that yes, it is important to know to actually learn how to speak up about stress, have the confidence. But let's look at some of the challenges that that individual has in industry. They think that they may think to themselves things like, if I speak up about stress, it's going to be a black mark against me. If I speak up about stress, my manager is going to think to themselves, I can't cope. If I talk about stress, then I may actually lose my job. Those are the kinds of issues that we are on the campaign to do something about. We are encouraging people to talk. We're encouraging people to speak. You're exactly right. There needs to be somebody who knows how to listen. And I mean knows how to listen, not just somebody to listen, but teach them how to listen. So I'm saying here is the communications part is absolutely integral to the person speaking up. So yes, I can encourage you to talk, but I need to actually train somebody, because not everybody, Daniel, as we know, is a good listener. They're being called here, there, and everywhere. They've got the phone in their hands. They've got the screw. They've got their monitor in front of them. They're trying to cut themselves into 24 different pieces. And then somebody has a problem. And they say to me, I don't think I really have time to speak to this person. And I'll say very clearly, you don't not have time to speak to that person. You need to, because you need to pick up. If somebody wants to talk to you, you need to make the time and give the time and make the time to listen to that individual. This is a part of where industry needs to be. But once industry really appreciates it's bottom line driven, meaning it's going to actually increase their productivity and increase their profitability, then you'll get more people from industry coming on board.
Yes, and in a way, what I'm hearing, Carole, is that we have to break through that taboo. The manager, when he sees somebody in his team stressed or having certain problems, that they go to that person, with the right tools. And I think that's what you're, expressing also in your book, with the right tools to how do you address somebody who you're seeing is obviously suffering, and learning also, how to address them and how to listen to them, and and then of course act. And it's, as you said, it's also with mental health issues. The taboo about mental health issues, not to dare to talk about it. No, we must talk about it, don't we?
We must. And I think the thing is, this is why I'm linking, as we know, is that stress can lead to mental health issues, and this is why we need to talk about it. We've already started in the UK. The royal family started talking about mental health issues earlier on this year, 2017, and that has only been good for the campaign. But I have to say, Tom and Danielle, excuse me, we have a long way to go. I've been on this campaign now for many, many years. We still have a long way to go. Are we more enlightened than we were years ago? Yes, we are. With projects such as initiatives that you're putting on with the Global Stress Summit, obviously it helps. There's no question of that. However, there are still too many people who regard stress as a taboo subject, too many people who regard mental health as stigma. And that is why these days are just one day out of 365 days. But we have to be talking and speaking up and speaking out about stress and mental health for the rest of the days as well. Today is a great opportunity. Stress Awareness Day is a great opportunity. International Stress Awareness Day. I'm thrilled that it's actually there. But we need to actually look at this as an ongoing campaign. This isn't a one-off day. Yes, the summit will be available online for people to watch and to view for time right throughout the year, and that's great. But we have to really put our money where our mouth is. We actually have to do something about it every single day. It needs to become a part of everybody's campaign and not just mine.
And that information you can find also on the ISMA website. There is some documents, some free downloads, but also some documents that I also worked on together with you that companies and organizations can get, to continue that message of speaking up and speaking out about stress within that working environment or the organization. So please go and visit that website also, if you want to continue and help us to raise the awareness within your, within your reach. That's to the audience, of course. Danielle, I think you have another question for Carole.
I've decided after this interview, I mean, how lovely to talk, to Carole. I can do it for hours. But I'm going to leave you the honors, Tom, to ask her the last question, because I've, interrupted you a few times. But I've just got one thing to say to Carole. Thank you so much for your trust in us. You've backed us up from day one, not really knowing what we were going to do. But I hope you are proud of us. I hope you've got a lovely, Belgian handsome guy there. And a young grandmother who is working her butt off to so let's just, be our beautiful selves, continue to do this. And Tom has really done an amazing job with the website and everything. And I'm, trying to stay as authentic, being the bubbly me. So I leave it up to Tom to, because it's quite an interesting last question. And I want Tom to ask it. And I'm giving you a very big hug, Carole, and, thank you for everything.
Right, but Tom, before you answer the question, I have to say something to that. We couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. We in the UK couldn't do this without you guys. We really can't. And this is not all about self-congratulatory. We are all on the same mission. We're all working on the same campaign. Today is one day out of the rest of the year, and it will continue. So there's no way that this is just going to be a hello and goodbye. This is a campaign. When I first met Tom, it was an initial conversation with him, and the relationship grew after that. Then I introduced him to you, Danielle. So the whole situation has blossomed. But the same way it's blossomed with ISMA, Belgium, it can blossom with other countries as well. And so everybody that's listening to this, if they are a lone person sitting in a country wherever they are, for goodness sake, write to me, talk to me, because together, one voice is strong. More voices is even stronger. And when you get more voices and more voices, then you get a campaign. And then we're there to actually help other people. And that's what we're there for. This is not all about us. This has nothing to do with us. We are catalysts. We actually are there to help other people. And that's what we do. But I could not do what I do. The UK could not do what they do without you guys. And so therefore, I'm genuinely saying, you say thank you for your trust. I say thank you for stepping up to the mark. I know maybe a little of what it takes to do that. I work my socks off over here, but you work your socks off over in Belgium as well, and so do other countries. And it's everybody pulling together. This is now an international campaign. And I have to say that really is a huge, huge feeling it gives to me of appreciation to people such as yourselves, because we can't do it without you.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's also, when you're part of an association, yes, one part of that is that you have an idea, and then you have a certain expertise, you have a sort of vision. For me, a personal vision, to indeed, communicate and spread the words about, stress management and so forth. So then you have like this ISMA platform, which supports your ideas and and supports your to do and to act. And this is what I find, when you're in your own corner, it's all good and well, but then you have ideas, and then you can share them, and then that sharing, because you put people together, and International Stress Management Association really did that, to create that kind of idea that I had to take it to the next level. And this is what you're saying, please people, get in contact with Yzma, with you, if you're interested, if your expertise in stress, when you're a psychiatrist, psychologist, coach, or me, like an osteopath specialized in stress, let's get together and, put it on the map even further and see what we can come up with for next year. But that last question, Carole, is, of course, the most, let's say, challenging, perhaps. And that is, what is that one phrase, only one phrase, that you would like to give to the audience, as a message? Speaking up, speaking out about stress, like a one phrase that you would say from here, this is my phrase to you to manage stress better, or to raise awareness as a tool that they can use. Is there one phrase in the whole of the phrases?
Right, I'm going to come up with 3 words. Know your purpose, have your vision, and take action. If everybody knows exactly what they need to do in their lives, and they have a vision how they want that to be, they need to know the purpose of why they're going to get there, how they're going to get there. And then ultimately, it's everybody's individual responsibility to take action. So nobody can do it for you. Everybody has to do that for themselves. If we at ISMA can help anybody with our downloads, with our summit, with our stress awareness day, whatever that may well be, helps individuals to take responsibility for themselves. Stress management is personal responsibility. And as it's personal responsibility, I take it on as my role as chair of ISMA UK to actually help as many people as we can, to help people along the way in order that they can ultimately help themselves.
Purpose, mission, and vision. Great. It's a great way to end this wonderful conversation. Carole, Danielle, we have a whole day now to spread the message. Carole, you will be at the Stress Fair.
I will indeed, in London between 5 and 8 p.m. Virgin Health Clubs at Broadgate are actually supporting us with our stress. So they're hosting the Stress Fair, so we will be there. We also have a free online stress chatbot line, so anybody can dial into that as well. All details will be on our website, isma.org.uk. Let's take this as one day, but let's take this the first day of 365 days to actually help people to speak up and speak out about stress and mental health.
Okay, thank you. And that's a great one. And really, for the listeners, for the people that are watching, we have about 13 more interviews coming up. So till about 5 o'clock this evening. Thank you very much, Carole. Thank you very much, Danielle. And
bye-bye. Thanks, Tom.
we see each other later on this evening. Bye.
See you just now. Bye-bye.
Bye.